Brian was told over and over that he has a voice for radio, but it wasn't until he had a private coaching session that he knew voice acting was what he wanted to pursue. Brian joins the podcast to tell me more about that journey, share his thoughts on things like character psychology, and weigh in on other related topics. I hope you enjoy our interesting conversation. Tell me who you are and how you got involved in voice acting.
I am Brian Servino, and I have had a long journey trying to get to voice acting to this point. So there's so many different moving parts for me, but I'm gonna try to sum it up as best as I can. I've had a lot of lead up from watching cartoons growing up and everything, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, all that stuff, right? And then eventually I got a lot more into it when I would listen to voice acting in video games and everything. I love video games. I play it all the time. It's just struck me at some point when it would be planted into my head about like using my voice for stuff when I would go into workplaces and this would happen all the time. They would always be like, "You got this radio voice. Like, you ever think about going to radio?" And every time that would happen, I'm just like, oh, maybe I could use my voice for something, but what could I use it for realistically besides the radio here? And then I thought about voice acting as an option. From there on, I was like, okay, maybe I can make something work and maybe I can see where it can take me. At a point, the thing that really made me try to go for it was the fact that I had to work with an audio engineer when I worked at radio as an intern for like a bit. And I got to do a bit of like cold reads for a bit of characters and everything. This was when I was still very much shy about trying to do voices in front of people. So I had two character voices that I had to do for this one like little bit of a read. And what ended up happening was both characters were practically just the same voice because I was too shy about it. But then my audio engineer, he was just like, just do whatever you can, just do whatever. And I just went, all right, fine. Threw it all out the window, no care, just decided to focus on how to deliver properly. And when I did, he paused for a second after I made the delivery and he was just like, "You're hiding something, man." That was kind of like the catalyst for me. Ever since that and everything, I took a little bit of classes. I not really able to take like classes that other people were able to take due to my time zone, unfortunately, and that's very constrained, so it's been very challenging. So typically I have to kind of take more private coaching in order to improve. I took one class from Morgan Berry a year ago in February, and then I just kind of use that as my spark of, do I really want this? And if I feel like I really want this, despite the challenges that I think are going to be had, then let's just go for it then. And after I had my private session with her, I sat there and thought, yeah, no, this is it. This is the one I want. So I ended up taking private coaching from Mike Delamorte for months and months and months and just trying to get my footing. It's a long journey, but it's been fun.
How have you felt that you've grown as a voice actor since you first did those character voices with the audio engineer until today?
I feel like I've become a lot better at noticing where I can place my voice and noticing how I can kind of give my own, I guess, unique spin on things depending on the character and everything. I'd say that I have a good bit of range and everything, so I can go from like the very high highs to like very low lows and everything. When it comes to trying to become better at just kind of digesting and dissecting how characters are and everything, that's one thing I improved a lot at. I really love tackling the psychological aspect of characters. The thing I learned the most was the fact that management, you have to do so well with how much you have to manage your time, whether you're sitting down and practicing, whether you're sitting down thinking about the character voices, whether you're sitting down and thinking about how your character is supposed to act and everything. I had to take a lot of that because I have no theater background. I have no acting background before all this. It was all just pretty much fresh on my mind every single time I would have to take in a new lesson. And I'm looking at all these people. And despite how competitive of an industry it is, it's a very supportive one too. I think that is the most interesting part of it because you don't really get that with industries too often, I'd say. So to have that kind of collective support system, despite how competitive it can be, it definitely makes it so interesting and nuanced for how this industry can be.
Where do you find audition opportunities?
There are several places where people can look. You can try to look in Facebook like groups. You can try to look in Discord groups as well. Reddit posts that people look at sometimes. Twitter probably has like the most amount of auditions you might end up seeing, to be honest, because there are just so many people wanting to get their stuff out there. So I tend to just kind of run into auditions on accident. I'll like scroll a little bit and then my algorithm just kind of does things for me, and then eventually, oh, here's a new casting call. I don't even have to be tagged sometimes because of how often these things kind of pop up. Actually, I think that's like probably one of the most common places you look. Casting call club, of course, that's another place that people usually look for. Those ones tend to be more fan made centered when it comes to what people would make there, but you can definitely have some really, really cool fan made projects and really cool original made things too. Blue Sky sometimes, and also even Instagram, but I don't really familiarize myself as much with some of these other platforms, to be honest, but I should definitely pitch out of it.
When you're looking for characters to audition for, what kind of characters are you drawn towards?
I love Gremlin characters. I just love the kind of energy that you can pull from it. A good amount of the time for those kind of characters, they can be so cartoonishly high energy and everything. For me, I kind of draw energy from what I see in a script that interests me. It's so cool when I get to see very high octane energy and you just kind of go back and forth with huge dynamics too. I really love those kind of characters. I've been like told like I can have like this kind of like protagonist or hero or something kind of voice or something, but I don't really get those ones anyways. I also don't really see those ones as often as I would like to as well, but I would, like to kind of get those. But also villains. Villains, I'd say, are very interesting, nuanced, and complex, but they can also just be, very intimidating. And I'd say probably my just lower end of the voices are probably what I mostly excel at when it comes to what I can even book and everything compared to the rest of like what I can get in terms of like high pitch or like the medium and everything.
What types of projects do you enjoy auditioning for and participating in?
Definitely video games, visual novels, I think is really cool to go for. Audio dramas too. I like audio dramas. I do want to try for commercial at some point because I really decided to go for voice acting last year. Really, really took it seriously, made my decision. And I think I need more experience before I can really feel comfortable with trying to go more into things like commercial and everything, because that's just an entirely different from, character work. I would like to do that kind of stuff at some point, especially because I feel I can definitely have the flexibility with my voice for that. I think anime would be cool too, but that's just unrealistic for my location and everything right now. It's not a huge priority for me. I think things like dubbing, ADR and everything, that could be really interesting and cool. I don't have as much interest towards that right now just because I have a lot of priority towards other kinds of character work, but I would definitely love to delve into that at some point, that's for sure.
Tell me a little bit about the equipment that you have.
I had the smallest idea of like VA being planted into my head years ago, right? So I was just kind of having fun with using mic stuff and everything and not really doing huge research into this whole thing years ago. But when I guess first started with my mic, even not really being in the industry itself, I had a blue snowball and everything, and then later on, like years and years later, I think it was the Rode NT A1, and I had the Scarlett Focusrite 2i2 audio interface. And that's pretty much all I had at the time. But now I've upgraded it and got help with a friend to help with a more proper booth and everything, a DIY thing, PVC pipes and everything, the moving blankets, got a little bit of extra equipment to help with just stopping the echo and reverb too. And I have a mini K87 and I have a solid state Logic plus 2 Mark II. I didn't expect things to be so complicated and nuanced on the technical side of things when I got into this until I really did research. And then, you get a bunch of different answers of, oh, you should try for this, you should try for that. I mean, I think more people nowadays are just telling you set up your room, make sure it's like all good. Have a closet if you have to, and just record in there, blankets, whatever. But a lot of people just kind of rush to go, oh, well, what kind of mic should I get and everything. But having proper mic isn't really going to help if you just don't really have the environment for it.
Do you use any specific
Hmm.
software to edit auditions or something you record for a project?
Before I did use Audacity because, free and it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing, right? Then I discovered Isotope RX11. I'd say that helps a ton, especially because I am a person who can sweat a good bit when I'm in the booth. So it is helpful because sometimes my mouth gets a little dried up sometimes. And, I try my best to hydrate. They even have this like mouth click, like removal thing that actually helps a good bit. Isotope RX11 as a software has been very helpful to me too, just generally getting rid of noise and everything. And it has a lot of different kind of plugins and everything that you can work with too. And the best part for me, even though it is more on the pricey side when it comes to it, for sure, it's not something that I recommend every person to get or whatever, right? I'd say just if you want at your own kind of risk of financial spending, and if you have the financial spending to have it, then you can just go ahead and do it. I would recommend it for sure.
What are some of the things in the video game world that you're really excited about right now, and the things that you're like, "What's going on with this?"
That's a hard question for me right now, just because I still have video games I play and everything. I played so much before I got into voice acting and everything, but right now it's like a lot of it gets put on hold just because of how much I'm trying to do within this industry, right? But in terms of what I have to look forward to right now, I'm very competitive by heart, by spirit. So I've played a little bit of fighting games. I've played a bit of Smash Bros and everything. I'm planning on playing Marvel Tokon when it comes out, but I'm still not completely sure. But it just looks like a really cool, interesting game. I really love the voice acting in that game so much. I know that Josh Keaton is Iron Man and Spider-Man in that game, and there are a bunch of other really cool casting choices that I've seen in that game, and I really want to hear more of them. I'm looking forward to a lot of different games, but right now it's really hard for me to really place like which ones that I can really look forward to aside from Persona 4 Revival. That's one thing I've been looking forward to. Besides that one, I can't really think of anything at the moment that I'm really looking forward to because I have so much that I can potentially spend on. There are games that I have put on the back burner for so long that I definitely need to pick back up or even just, buy and just play through it completely. I need to play Mouthwashing. I love like interesting story based games and everything. What other games that I have? Signalist, that is like a little horror kind of game too that I really loved playing. There's also Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective. There are just a bunch of different choices that I have, so it's overwhelming.
What are your short-term and long-term goals with voice acting?
Well, long term for sure, I definitely want to have a better sounding booth and everything. I do have a decently sounding booth, but there could probably be certain things that I could still probably improve on and everything, knowing that this is DIY and all that other stuff. Especially when it comes to getting a proper booth. I know that some people have like the option of buying a booth and then just kind of setting that up, going like, bam, all right, I'm done, instead of just, I have to build this brick by brick. For me, that is something that can be a bit rough just due to my region. That is kind of difficult. I'm not sure if that's necessarily something that I can actually have here, but I can only make with what I got. I do want to be in the Persona franchise. That's something that I really do want. Fire Emblem, just a few things to name, Sonic franchise and everything, a few of those things. One of the things I really want to do for sure, getting, even more coaching from other people, different people from different parts of the industry and such, having their kind of input. And I really do want to get a really good boost in confidence too. I feel like I can get to places when it comes to how I audition and what stuff I can get, but It's been difficult to place where I'm at in terms of just how I am skill level wise and everything. And I think there's a lot I still need to work on. So much of my goals are mostly centered around long term, but I think, yeah, just short term, I would like to just have more coaching from all these different sorts of people and, see where it can go from there.
What advice would you give people that are just starting out with voice acting, or maybe they're kind of on the fence? They're not sure whether they should try it or not.
This is coming from one of the people who can probably be one of the most unconfident in what he wants sometimes. I am so indecisive about these kind of things, but when it comes to what you're passionate about, I know it can cost money, right? I know it is not really easy entry level wise and everything. So I will say err on the side of caution when it comes to getting into the industry. Be very, very prepared for rejection. That is something that everyone in the industry has to face, no matter what level. I talked to Ron Rubin at some point in a little guest thing for a workshop that happened months ago. And, I asked him, how did you tackle imposter syndrome? And he was never asked this question before. And he was like trying to gauge, like, oh, you mean like, like you don't really feel like you belong or anything? And I'm just like, yeah, in a sense. And he responded immediately with, like, no, I belong here. I always feel like I've belonged. And to have that just complete confidence in what you are talking about, what you're doing and everything. And he even prefaced this with how he struggled to get work for about a year and he was considering to, going back into doing some other kind of work outside of voice acting when he was struggling at the time. And then, work picked back up for him. And so, definitely err on the side of caution when it comes to getting into the industry, but also build up the confidence up and build up your knowledge of it. The more that you just know within the industry, the more that you'll be able to kind of decipher how, you are skill level wise and everything. That's why I need to improve because I think there's just so many facets that I need to tackle, especially when it comes to the acting part of things. Take acting classes, do all you can to improve your skill set and everything. You don't need to have like several different kinds of like voices and everything, as long as you're able to perform. That's why I learned from Cassandra Lee Morris. If you are able to perform really well, you will be able to fit into these kind of characters that you will find down the line, and people will remember the performances. That is something that I think people don't really get when they get into voice acting. It's like, I need to have this kind of voice or that kind of voice. Your voice, any voice will literally fit in to the industry. You just have to find which parts of the industry you can tackle and how you're going to tackle it and just chase after it. Don't really care who tells you no. Just keep going.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.